welcome to Offsite Dirt. My name is Mark Willie, and we are going to be covering more high performance build. I'm joined by Audrey Grabresik. Audrey, who do we have with us today?
We have a special guest, which I am certainly excited for. I've been on his show before. His name is Brett Little, and he's with the Green Home Institute. Hello, Brett. How are you today?
Hi, great. Good to be here.
We are so excited because we love talking about high performance and green, and that's exactly what the Green Home Institute does. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah. So super excited to talk. Yeah.
So a little bit on Brett. He is the education manager at the Green Home Institute, and he is helping people around the world to get educated for better, best, and great ways of building with green and for new homes and existing homes. He has done this even for his own home. So we're going to kind of jump in, Brett. Where can we find easy resources to manage our own residential green project? Where can we find those?
Yeah. So at our website, the Green Home Institute, and that is singular home.org, greenhomeinstitute.org. Under our programs, under the Green Star Homes program, there is several resources. There is a online sort of manual, if you will, that sort of walks you through sustainability features of a home under our 5 pillars of green: energy, health, materials, water, and place. And then it defers over to sort of a workbook, we call it, where it can help you manage a project. And those are all open source, free tools anyone can grab and take and, be more informed with.
Open source really helps this information spread at a quicker space because you're starting in the world of inclusiveness, right? You're saying, hey, be a part of this, and this is where you click. If I want to if I want to take my home to a green star, right? To make it a green star home, what does that mean, and what do I do?
Yeah, it's a great question, and part of it is just trying to figure out, well, where are you starting from, right? You need to know what your starting point is, and so we highly encourage something called the Green Home Inspection process. So we know that out there in the world, there is a plethora of energy audits, right? They're called energy audits, home energy ratings. And then also there are home inspectors out there, right, that are going out and inspecting homes. Typically, you're only usually getting that done during the sales process, right? You're not saying, hey, I want to just know how my home is doing so I can make it better. I'm going to call up my home inspector. So we're kind of like marrying the two ideas together, the home inspector with the energy auditor, and getting this sort of holistic view of where a house is at, snapshot of where it's at, and then where you want to take it from there. So that's, we don't require that, but it's certainly for people who are just trying to get their feet wet. Where do we start and what do we do?
So Brett, are you seeing more and more people in this space that, first of all, we know how important it is to have a healthy home and to be able to be having a green home and understanding that there is a way to measure it. Now we've got these tools to resource it. Are you seeing more people get into like a professionally certified arena with having to be in this space? Or what are you seeing the trends with that kind of individual that wants to start off into this professional setting of certification?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing an uptick of people who want to get their, you call it what you will, a credential, certificate, maybe some kind of degree in it. There's all sorts of names for it. But yeah, we are seeing an uptick of people who want to serve in this capacity and be able to assist people coming from, all different walks of life, from having a background in the trades and design, which is always very helpful, or just from a sustainability standpoint. They're just very interested in the environment and sustainability, concerned about what's going on, and they want to put some effort into housing. So that's where we're seeing people come from as well.
So it's heavily consumer driven in that regard, right? Of people wanting to make um an adjustment or wanting to learn something. Um it's like there's points in our life you referenced, people make that decision at the purchase or the selling of a building, but you don't maintain your vehicle at the purchase or selling of it,
Mm.
right? And you hopefully don't see a doctor only when things are going bad. So do you feel that education and that awareness to be um inquisitive about how your building is behaved is often motivated by seeing what other people do?
Well, that's a fantastic question. And all you have to do is look at solar, right? I mean, solar is sort of the, solar really answers that question, because what happens? People see their neighbor putting on solar, and then it sort of spreads. You go out and I know people who've added it. I go back to their house the next year and their neighbors got it, and the homes down the road got it. So the same thing can go for green improvements. Obviously, those are much less more visible, right? And in fact, sometimes we say, hey, it's a benefit that you can't see this. It's not some weird alien spacecraft that's landed in the neighborhood and the house sticks out like a Thor sun, because it's green, right? So communicating what you're doing and showing that off, the utility companies are doing a better job saying, hey, your neighbors down the road, they use way less energy than you. What are you doing? So we are seeing more of that. Obviously, it's trying to make the invisible more visible, because a lot of this stuff, sealed behind the walls or air quality, you can't see it. So
Yeah, I love that, and I do appreciate what the utilities do to post the comparison of how your unit or how your dwelling is doing in comparison. Just the other day, you'll like the story. I was at a blower door test, so they were trying to establish uh how how many leaks were in the house, the cumulative value of the leaks. And afterwards, right, uniquely enough, we're at lunch, and the mailman, the post carrier of that area, was delivering the mail there. Now this happened to be in Taylorville with our good buddy Matt Bloomquist, and the carrier said, hey, what was that red door doing on that building that the students built? And throughout the conversation, you could tell he was thinking like, now I need to have that on my house. Now I need to have that on my house. So
right.
I say that, Brett, because your example of solar and seeing and being inquisitive is really important. So be inquisitive. When your neighbor comes home with the dent gone in their car, you might say, who took care of that for you? That's really nice. So uh that's brilliant. Pass on what we learn. And Audrey, I got a bunch more questions. Do you got one?
I do. So talking about Green Home Institute, Brett, I love watching your videos. I think the education that you provide is outstanding because it is all education, right? The only way we can get better to build better is by education.
Mhm.
Are there any or one or two interviews or something that really engaged you being in this background, having such a passion for building better, building your own home to these standards? Was there one that particularly stood out that really made such an impact, not only for you, but maybe the people listening?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I learned something new on every single one, and I take something away that I didn't know. And our audience, is marking our sessions. We ask them how much they've learned from 1 to 5, and we're like averaging like a 4.5 or something. Like, I want to be 5, of course, I want to be perfect, but clearly our audience is walking away. Everybody's learning something on every single piece of something. And so, so yeah, they all stand out to me equally. You know, obviously yesterday we just did a session. It was Wednesday as of this recording anyway. So maybe not your yesterday, but we had someone on from the Building Science Institute. And one thing that stood out to me was how when we look at energy ratings, I talked about having someone come and do an energy rating on your house while they're doing a home inspection, modeling your home to see how it's using energy and how it could perform. You know, normally battery systems would not play a role in that kind of energy analysis because they don't save any energy. They don't generate any energy. But now that the energy systems are moving towards carbon, operational carbon, how much carbon we use in communicating that, the speaker was like, oh yeah, and battery systems can play a role in improving your rating because you can do time of use. You can shift the energy off the time when it's peak carbon. And so that really stood out to me during that most recent call. I was like, oh yeah, now these storage systems can help us think differently about efficiency, not just how much energy we use, but when we use it.
That communication is so important. I wonder what we do by transforming it rather than saying peak carbon, right? Because people sometimes think that's a reward, and saying reduced carbon discount at times, like manipulating that conversation. Like you've heard oftentimes, should we take thermostats and just have cooler, warmer rather than a number, and not allow that to go, let's say maybe more than 3 degrees over a 60-minute period. But in communication, um, what is green and what is carbon, and what is greenwashing? And Brett, is there such thing as carbon washing?
Well, you know, well, here's my opinion. So a lot of these green programs, these net zero programs, these zero carbon programs are allowing the buy-offs, right? And I saw this amazing post going around on Twitter, and I hope you can all find it someday, but it was recent where somebody was like, oh, yeah, I was cheating on you, but I offsetted my cheating by helping someone else stop cheating. I went and consulted this family. I got them to stop cheating so I can keep on cheating on you, right? In my relationship. It was hilarious. I was crying, and I hope you can all see that, because that's where we're at right now. You know, people are like, well, I do have a carbon footprint, so I can just go buy a $1 wind turbine down in India. No offense, we want to see all sorts of wind turbines in India. I can go buy a forest block in South America. Hey, that might burn down. Where'd that offset go? So sadly, I do think that the intention was good, but these things can be scammy. And so I'd like to see some improvement there. So
It's funny that you say that, because I think this is, where we're leading. I was just listening to a podcast actually this morning, and they were talking about carbon and carbon credits. And I think there's so much confusion around it. It's kind of like when Bitcoin came in, and then we have cryptocurrency, and now we're trying to change the way that we build, which I'm excited about, because we are all here because we want to build better. We are looking at offsite solutions. We're looking at green solutions. We're looking at ways to have better performance in our houses, Brett. And so it is confusing. And even like the whole thing about greenwashing. What is greenwashing, first of all? And how do we even know if we are being manipulated by it? Like, how do we even figure that out?
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why we not just educate on what to do, but include the third-party green building certifications, whether that be our good friends at the United States Green Building Council with LEED, which we're heavily involved in, or our friends at the Home Innovation Lab with the National Green Building Standard, or Passive House. I think, Mark, you may have heard of them. I don't know, but and so they're all putting together these third-party verifiable metrics to help us communicate it. So it's not saying, yeah, I did this green thing, but that there's this standard around it to communicate it. And then making sure that it's saying, yep, it's sort of a, shades of green, right? Good, better, best. And we could always do better. And so, not saying that those programs are perfect by any means, and sometimes things get through that didn't actually happen, But I think that's a great place to start to ensure, at least from a housing improvement or construction standpoint. And then, of course, products, right? Products have certifications as well to, again, ensure that they're properly meeting these standards. And again, not perfect, but that's what I always say is make sure you're using some kind of label. And that's why we came up with Green Star for existing homes, so that you could have something to guide you and it's credible.
So if I'm new to this, obviously there's so many recordings that Green Home Institute has done. So if I'm new to this, uh, the nice thing is when Brett's sleeping, I can just click on some links and dive in at my own time and at my own speed. But to give some people some pointers, right? So they hear it from your voice, someone that is not only talk the talk and spread the voice of others, but someone that has walked the walk like yourself. Um, can you name a few things uh, and try to dilute it to a few things that someone can do in their home or in their unit?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, um, getting that green home inspection done, right, or that energy audit done, DOE home energy score, you name it, getting some kind of idea again of where you're starting at and where you could go. And quite honestly, with the Inflation Reduction Act funding coming down the line, the states, hopefully all of them, and you might want to be knocking on your state's energy office door right now saying, get this out the door. You're talking about up to $8,000 for proper energy modeling and improvements per low to moderate income household. And so that's real money, and they're putting together specific programs on how to do this. And so I would say look into that and how your state's going to design. It's going to be slightly different in every state. And so that's coming. It's not here as of me speaking now here on this recording, but it might be later, hopefully by 2024. And then that's one thing. And then, so that's energy, right? Energy conservation. It throws out all the other aspects of green. Do you have a healthy home? Do you have a durable home? And that's the scary part to me, is people are going to get all this money, improve their home, and now they're going to be having health issues. Home's going to be falling apart. So I get a little nervous that that's left out. So we're here to say, get air quality monitoring in. I use it all the time. It informs me on what's going on in my house to make better decisions, to figure out how to manage air quality. And sometimes that comes at odds with energy efficiency. I run my fan all the time in the furnace, right? If you have a bath fan in your house, go and turn it on right now. That is your ventilation system. I did it. I watched my CO2 and VOC levels plummet down just by turning on a bath fan. Just let that thing run and then make sure you maintain it every year so it doesn't catch on fire. But and then making sure that you don't have water leaks and you're testing for humidity issues. So those are all very important, and all the money is getting thrown at efficiency. Everyone wants to pay for energy efficiency. No one wants to pay for you to be healthier, and that is disappointing, and we're working on that. So, but you can take control yourself. So
Yeah, but you're
It,
talking about talking about helping yourself be better, right? And so
right.
these are really great active tips. I love going to your state energy office and doing some research. I think that's so brilliant. I love that you're talking about air quality. I think these are all small little things that we can do to help ourselves, because there's so much information out there. There's so many things coming at us, Brett. And I think these really quick tools of what you have stated are
Mhm.
so helpful. Thank you for them.
Yeah, and to follow up on air quality, I mean, you can just see, like, here's kind of a sensor of mine. I don't know if you can kind of see that a little bit. Some of the
A little bit
the
sometimes
the
as
the
well.
rating and maybe the blurred background there. But one thing that happened is I detect radon, and I'm concerned about radon. And one time my radon system went down because of a power outage, and it was like, okay, I would have never known that had I not been looking at my air quality monitors, seeing it spiked up, right? And so I had to go back and restart the system. So those are all kinds of things that I think can help inform people that are coming on the market. So
it's brilliant. So many of these things, Brett, like from the first days we met until today are still so applicable, right? You walk in from the outside, your feet have been on pavement and they're carrying who knows what. So when your grandmother said,
Mm.
take your shoes off at the door, right? Still applies. When you have a low flow faucet, shower head, and toilet system, and you don't hear that running and it's not condensating and dripping all over the place, making a mess, you're using less water.
Right.
Water is important. Your lights are presumably by now LED in most cases, which allows a better light quality and less energy use. The bath fan, you might not know you have one. It might be one of those brands that it's completely silent. They do a tissue test and you put it up there. You can also perform, I think it's called the lemon pledge test when you're in their crawl space and you spray the lemon. And if you smell that upstairs, you could see some of that leakage up there.
I haven't
These
heard
are
that
so
one.
many things, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um, the third party group that that Brett talks about that is so involved in all these different ways of voluntary certification things. They're really your partners, and that line that we heard so many times is not only do they meet you where you are and they learn how you use your house and what's going on in the house, but they're also going to discover things that you would never have seen. They're hyper wired for that and they're impartial. They're a friend you haven't met yet. So all these resources are abundantly available through the Green Home Institute. And this is not just for consumers. If you've heard this from a consumer minded focus, congratulations. That was meant for your ears. But if you've heard it and you're an architect and you need to keep up with your performance and keep learning, all those courses are there. If you're a lead professional, all those courses are there. They've gone through that process and they continue to onboard what's new. So that's a trusted source. Audrey, sharing this time with Brett has been great. I would love to, if we all had the time, honestly, to do this like a lot more often. Brett, I'm so glad that we were able to take the time today. We encourage everyone to say hello to Green Home Institute, to share what they're doing with your community because they're there for that. And we want to thank you all for joining High Performance Build right here on Offsite Dirt.